Hello everyone and welcome to Green Healing. Today I want to clarify how psychopathy is actually categorized. There's a trend going on these days where a lot of people are calling it a mental illness, but in actuality it's a personality disorder. So I'm going to explain what a mental illness is, what a personality disorder is, and I'm going to talk a bit more about psychopathy also. To begin, the DSM and APA place it as a form of antisocial personality disorder. There are psychiatrists, however, who prefer to categorize it as a separate personality disorder because both psychopathy and sociopathy are considered antisocial personality disorder in the DSM, but a lot of psychiatrists argue that they each should be their own personality disorder. I tend to agree because there are nuances between psychopathy and sociopathy, so to group them together within as a form of antisocial personality disorder, it seems to me a bit general, but that's how it's considered today as per the DSM. So many psychiatrists do refer to it as a separate personality disorder, but still a personality disorder and not a mental illness. So what is a mental illness? It is several mental health conditions that affect our mood, the way we think, the way we behave, or the way we react to certain things and to certain situations. Mental illnesses include post-traumatic stress disorder, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety disorder, depression, eating disorders, addictive disorders. Sometimes we'll have mental health concerns, but it becomes an illness when it's prolonged, when the symptoms are prolonged throughout a long period of time and it doesn't get any better. It just either plateaus or gets worse over time. That's usually a sign of illness. The similarity would be that a mental illness is developed from an external source such as trauma or abuse, and some personality disorders could be developed through trauma and abuse as well. So that would be the similarity between the two. For a mental illness, symptoms obviously vary depending on the actual illness, but they can include melancholy, the inability to focus and concentrate, confusion, fears, guilt, panic, social withdrawal, fatigue, stress, diet changes, changes in the sex drive, suicidal thoughts, the desire to self-harm, and that sort of thing. Sometimes there can be physical symptoms associated to a mental illness as well, such as stomach and or back pain, headaches, abdominal pain, neuralgia, needle-like pain, and or other types of aches and pains that can come and go. Adrenal fatigue can also be a result of a mental illness, such as anxiety or depression and other illnesses as well. So now, personality disorder is usually described as having a rigid and unhealthy pattern of functioning, of thinking, and of behaving. People with personality disorders tend to have trouble relating to other people and situations. Personality disorders typically develop in adolescence. So it develops in adolescence and it becomes part of your personality, whereas the illness is like the impact of something. Usually some illnesses are actually referred to as a reaction. There are three clusters of personality disorders. Cluster A, which includes paranoid personality disorder, schizoid personality disorder, schizotypal personality disorder, cluster B, which includes antisocial personality disorder, thus psychopathy and sociopathy, borderline personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, and narcissistic personality disorder, and cluster C, which includes avoidant personality disorder, dependent personality disorder, and obsessive compulsive personality disorder. All right, so now psychopathy. I have an episode of Green Healing where I talk a lot about psychopaths as a type of abuser, which goes really more into detail than I'm going to be looking at today. So I highly suggest you check that out. I'm going to have a link in the description for you. It would be easy to categorize psychopathy as a form of insanity, because how else would you explain someone's desire to repeatedly harm another being through abuse and violence? You know, while psychopaths are human, they're inhumane because they have no compassion, no empathy, and no remorse. Since psychopaths often act immorally, when the term was first coined in the 1800s, psychopathy was actually considered as moral insanity. Today, it has been developed to be categorized as a form, as part of antisocial personality disorder by the DSM. There exists a checklist. The PCLR, R for revised, formerly known as the Hare Psychopath Checklist, used as an assessment tool listing 20 personality traits of a psychopath. Here's a comprehensive list of these 20 traits from this checklist as listed on learningmind.com. The link to the website is in the description. So the 20 traits: pathological lying, glib and superficial charm, grandiose sense of self, need for stimulation, cunning and manipulative, lack of remorse or guilt, shallow emotional response, callousness and lack of empathy, parasitic lifestyle, poor behavioral controls, sexual promiscuity, early behavior problems, lack of realistic long-term goals, impulsivity, irresponsibility, failure to accept responsibility, many short-term marital relationships, juvenile delinquency, revocation of conditional release, criminal versatility. There are actually two types of psychopaths, primary psychopaths and secondary psychopaths, which I talk a lot about in my video about psychopaths as types of abusers. Basically, primary psychopaths are born psychopaths, whereas secondary psychopaths, like sociopaths and narcissists, as I've spoken about as types of abusers, become this way through abuse and trauma as infants and young children. So childhood abuse can cause the person to develop psychopathy, sociopathy, NPD, and potentially other personality disorders, but I have not researched the other personality disorders. You know, if you've been abused by a psychopath, it doesn't really matter how a psychopath is categorized or diagnosed. It doesn't, that category, that diagnosis doesn't take away or delegitimize your experience as a victim and survivor of that abuse. It doesn't take away your right to protect yourself from this person or these types of people. And it doesn't take away your right to heal in the manner you feel is best for you. And I hope that this information can help you on that healing journey, if just with a bit of knowledge. Anyway, as per usual, empower yourself and be emotionally free.